All right.
Hello, everybody. This is Julie D from NordoniaHills.news, and welcome to the Business Spotlight. And today we are spotlighting DPS for Life with Joe Pannitto. Well, that has a great ring to it, Joe.
Well, thank you very much, Julie. That's awesome. It's great to be with you today.
Well, thank you for visiting me as well. So we have a lot to talk about with people. Now, for the people in the Nordonia area, they may see this face and they're like, I think I know that guy.
Yes, I have been around a long time, but most people will know my wife and not me. Both of our girls went to Rushwood and then Lee Eaton, the middle school and the high school. And my wife has now, for the last 10 years, been one of the secretaries in the guidance office at the high school. So when you walk in, and if your child needs a work permit, they're probably talking to my wife at some point.
Awesome, awesome. So let's talk about DPS for Life. So
Yeah,
DPS stands for Developing Positive Skills for Life.
it does. It does. That's my um, doing business as name. The official corporate name is JMJS, which is just a really in-depth search I did for an incorporation, and that's simply the initials of our whole family. So Joe, Mary Beth, my wife, Jennifer, our oldest, and Sarah, our youngest. So
That is
really
very
complex.
cool.
Yeah, really complex.
So why coaching? And from
Wow,
what I understand, you didn't like wake up when you were young and start coaching.
I did not. I went to Kent State and I majored in business administration, which means that you pretty much don't know what you want to do. So you throw in business administration and hope for the best. What I wound up with was a 24-year career in commercial insurance, which was awesome. It was a great way to spend a big chunk of my life, but just it got to be just a paycheck. And I really found that I got burned out over a period of time. So pivot 2017 or so, started becoming interested in speaking and joined a local organization, a local club through Toastmasters International. And you know what, Julie, something just clicked. And I said, you know what, here's the next chapter of my life. I'm going to be a speaker and a coach and a trainer and give back. And the rest is history, as they say. I just kind of did a real pivot and said, okay, my insurance life has just the door's closed on that. Here's this brand new door that's opening up where I can help people and really get a lot of fulfillment out of that.
Yeah, I think through most of our lives, we are on different paths, and we really can't, I don't think we should stay in one place long. I think, maybe after every 10, 20 years, you should look and say, do I still want to be here or how can I evolve? Because we kind of get stuck. And I know that you can also help people get unstuck.
That's the whole thing. Yeah, the challenge for us is for any of us is we get something starts holding us back, and part of it's the way we think. So one of the taglines, if you will, that I talk about a lot is thinking differently, because by design, human beings tend to think of why we can't do something versus why we can do something. So thinking differently is a big part of it. And the program that I put together, and it's really pieces of existing programs, but haven't been combined like this before, is called Breaking the Chains. So I do breaking the chains as a process for individuals who are seeking to get unstuck, if you will. And then some with some specific challenges too. With my coaching practice, Julie, I focus on three areas. So one is I work with a organization that provides coaches to various companies and their employees. So I am coaching everywhere from brand new college graduates just entering their careers to mid-level managers to C-suite executives on that side of things in terms of being the best that they can be in those jobs. And then my personal passions are in a couple of areas. One is working with those that are dealing with addictive behavior. and are in recovery from addictive behavior. Addictive behavior could be anything. It could be substance, it could be alcohol, could be gambling, could be shopping, there's a lot of different addictions out there. The other one is adults that are navigating ADHD, because I have found as I've been coaching these employees that there's a really consistent need for adults that are managing their careers and their lives now with ADHD. They may have been through high school and college receiving some additional support, and now they're in the workforce trying to navigate ADHD in this new work environment where it's hybrid or remote work. I was never officially diagnosed as ADHD, but I know I have those traits. I know I have those kind of challenges. I've done several assessments online, and I'm definitely right there, even though way back when I was in school, we were never tested for that.
No, it was a totally different world back then. And
Yeah.
I think the reason why it's really helpful to have a coach like you is to navigate this new world, because especially for the older community, it's like things are so different now. It almost seems like everything's upside down. And to have somebody who understands everything that they've been through, help them get to the navigating the new world, so to speak. I think that is definitely very helpful. So I can see how you can help many people at many stages of their life.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? That's very true. I mean, look at me. I pivoted in my mid-50s to a new career, and I'm working with folks that are anywhere from near retirement age, with retirement clearly in their sights, to brand new college graduates, the Gen Z, if you will, that are navigating. They don't have they don't have the same opportunities we did, from the standpoint that they may be in a 100% remote environment. So it's a little different to try to build relationships and feel belonging to your new company when you're not physically meeting with everybody every day.
Well, on the other challenge now, it seems like, when we were growing up, there really wasn't a ton of options like they are now. So it's
Right.
like, it's kind of like when you go to the grocery store, there's like 3 million different types of product, or maybe like toothpaste or whatever. It's like, back in the day, there was just a small section and it was easy.
True.
You pick one and go. But,
True.
and, sometimes, the older generation say, oh, you kids, you have like so many options. But it's like, that makes it even more confusing. I don't know why. And there's so many people, there's more of a spotlight on everybody now. Like, what are you doing? You go to the family gathering and what are you doing now, Joey? And it's like, I don't know. I think there's more pressure on kids these days than we had.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think that's a big part of it, because there's so many options out there, um, that it gets confusing. When I talk to a lot of clients about career path and what they want to do when they grow up, so to speak, uh, we start with some very simple things just to get them engaged and start thinking on a deeper level. Part of it can be really, really simple, Julie. One thing that I believe in is um, some level of meditation and just being alone with your thoughts, because we are so connected to these things, and we feel lost when we don't have them. And when you can actually be quiet and be still and just really think about what you want to do. And as a coach, that's where my job is, to ask those questions, to really allow someone to get deep into their reflections, and really figure out how they're wired, so to speak, and what they really want to do.
Do you
Um,
help people virtually or in
I
person?
do. I do. You know what? I have my preferred modes. So number one is face to face. I would much rather meet with someone face to face and have a conversation. If depending on how COVID's going, if they're not comfortable with that, I'll do Zoom sessions, and we'll meet that way. Or I can do phone sessions as well. The phone sessions are, quite honestly, they're very effective. They're not one of my favorites, because I need to be able to see who I'm working with. And I want everybody who I'm working with to see me too, because there's a lot of stuff that's not said in terms of body language that you
Mhm.
can pick up on as a coach.
Yeah, nonverbal communication.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Sometimes what you're not saying is more important than what you are saying.
Yes, that's true. And I think you talk about those chains that are holding us back. It's like I think, businesses have that too. It's like there's so many people that could use your services. I can see businesses being stuck. The
Yep.
businesses that are maybe been stuck in doing things the old way and they don't want to try the new stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, when let's say a business has been around for 30 years, how they conducted business back then was totally different than now.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have somebody who's working for a business like a corporation, they're in the cubicle and they get stuck because, they've gotten as further as they can through the org chart. And they kind of feel like they're stuck there and they're like, I can see them physically sitting at their desk in chains, like I have nowhere to go.
Sure.
So I
Sure.
mean, who can't you help? I mean, even successful people can
Yeah.
always use. I mean, Tony Robbins has, even though he's a coach, he has coaches.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So to answer your question, which is a great question, who can't I help? The people that I can't help are the ones who are not committed or ready to make the change, because coaching is a two-way street. So the client has to meet me halfway. If they're not committed to making real change, to um, take the actions necessary, then we could have 100 sessions in a year and it's not going to make a difference. So, in addiction recovery, they talk about the readiness ruler. So the readiness ruler is, what's your commitment level from 1 to 10 based on a number of different questions. So that's kind of when I do an input. So I'll do a free session with someone who's interested, because it's a two-way street. I need to know if they're ready, if they're going to be committed to what we're trying to do. They also have to know if they like me and there's a level of rapport there and a level of trust there, because not every coach is for every client and not every client is for every coach. So, so that's a big thing. So that level of commitment has to be there.
I think you have some slides to show us.
I do, as a matter of fact. So let me share those right now. And
And I
this
think
is
this explains your process.
It does explain part of the process. So Julie, the coaching process is really relatively simple. So you start with where you are. So for example, and I'm going to put this in there because I'm going to use you as an example, because you are coming up on a big anniversary. So here's Julie 7 years ago trying to figure out where Nerdonia Hills News is going to go. And here's Julie today. So for our audience, Julie in October is going to be celebrating 7 years of getting information and news that's relevant out to our communities. So with Nerdonia News. So congratulations to you and kudos on 7 years.
Thank you. It seems like 10.
It's so here's the thing. There's a gap there between those two Julies, if you will. And it really is either you're trying to reach a goal and you don't know how to get there, or you've got a problem that you can't get rid of, or you haven't figured out how to get rid of. Essentially, in the middle is where you're stuck. And that is where coaching can help you figure out where you're going and help you get there by getting a little bit more clarity on what your goal is and what your options are to overcome that obstacle. Because if you're focused on the outcome you desire, what you're really passionate about, what you're passionate about doing, you will find your way over, under, around, or through the obstacle. You'll get there. But that's really, quite simply, that's the coaching process in a nutshell. And what I do with the breaking the chains, Julie, is I put it together into a process that includes 5 steps. So the first one is doing a characteristics assessment. One of the things that I'm really, if you talk to me about philosophy, it's all positive psychology. So I don't talk about what you don't have. Let's talk about what you do have. Let's talk about those characteristics. All of us, I love, there's a lot of assessments out there, but I really love the VIA characters assessment. And VIA stands for values in action. It looks at 24 different characteristics because all of us, myself, you, everyone I work with, we have certain qualities that we tend to overuse. So those are called the signature um, characteristics or signature character strengths. Those are the ones that we tend to overuse sometimes. For me, it's humor. I use humor in every way possible, sometimes to my detriment, but
Guilty.
guilty. Yeah. Well, you know what? I have this sometimes, if you talk to my wife, I have this challenge sometimes where the mouth engages before the brain and then you can't take those words back. So, because I think it's funny, but it may not everyone thinks it's funny. So that's just an example. So the assessment looks at the 5 signature strengths that may be overused. It looks at the bottom 5 lesser strengths because it's very important that we call them lesser strengths because they're all strengths. So again, positive psychology. We're not talking about negative things. Those 5 lesser strengths are the ones that you can focus on to improve that are going to help you be a happier person, be a more productive person, be more productive at work, your personal life. And then there's those middle strengths. The rest are in the middle. And again, they're still strengths. So one of the, my clients, sometimes that's a real eye opener to say, wow, so now I understand why I do that because I tended to focus on that a lot. So that's kind of the first um, step is to gain some awareness about how you're wired and why you do the things you do.
Yeah, I think a
The
lot of times people focus on what, you know, maybe an issue that they're having. And some of that stems from their upbringing. You know,
absolutely,
unfortunately, sometimes parents, especially back in the day, they didn't really know as much as we know now as parents on what to say and what not to say
absolutely.
and what to do, you know, and they'll, you know, I mean, I hear people saying, you know, my mom kept saying, you know, you don't know anything, you'll never go anywhere, you'll never do anything.
Mm,
And that like stays in their head.
it
And
is
they think that they're not smart. They think that they can't do these things because that little voice is in their head. And it could be from themselves, not from a parent. They just think that they're not worthy and they're not, you know, they're not going to be able to succeed.
absolutely, absolutely. It is. We are a product of the environment that we grow up in. We all have some baggage that we carry. I don't think anybody comes from a quote unquote perfect family, but it's how you deal with that. Now, some folks do have some very definite trauma in their past, whether it's some type of abuse, maybe it's physical abuse, maybe it's mental abuse, those types of things. You brought up an interesting example there because I have had clients where they'll come in and part of the process they'll share that my parent just always referred to me as broken. I'm just, you're broken. We have to try to get you fixed. And it's just heartbreaking when you hear those types of things from someone from their past. So that is the first phase. The second, third, and fourth steps in the process are really the foundational work that I'm trained in. I'm trained in something called the empowerment dynamic. And it's really all in how I'm relating to the world and how I'm relating to myself. It all has to do with whether you see yourself as a victim or as a creator. And are you a victim where you don't have any control over your life? You just feel hopeless and helpless? Or are you that creator that can see the possibility? So we go through really 3 basic questions. What are you focused on? How are you relating? And what actions are you taking? So what are you focused on? Very simple. We talked about it before. Are you focused on the challenges, why you can't do something, or are you focused on what you want and how are you going to get there? That's really the first basic question. The second question, how are you relating? Are you seeing yourself as a victim? I deal with people that see themselves as victims all the time because maybe it's their boss who is really hard on them. maybe it's a parent, maybe it is another family member, but there's all these different variations. So you talk about someone being a victim, um, and shifting to that creator mentality where they see the possibility, they see the hope, they see how they can relate better to that person who may be persecuting them. We can spend an hour talking about just that because it's all
Yeah.
about moving from the drama triangle. Stephen Cartman put together the drama triangle in the 1960s. The empowerment dynamic is really the opposite of that, and taking that and turning the triangle right side up and moving forward. Um, and then the what actions are you taking is, now that you know what you're trying to get to, what the target is, let's figure out what the next steps are. And what's very important to know about coaching, because coaching can be um, misunderstood. So coaching is not mentoring. When you're a coach, you're really not telling people what to do, because I do have people that come to sessions and they'll say, so what do I need to do? What do you think? What should I do next? That's not my job. My job is to facilitate the conversation, because you have the answers. You just have to figure out what they are in your own mind. So my job is to ask those questions, get you thinking enough on a deep level to figure out the answers for yourself. The fifth part of the process for breaking the chains is a coaching engagement. So those first four pieces of the process set the stage, and once you learn, it's all about follow through. That's where, look at every January, we all make New Year's resolutions, and by January 15th, maybe we've totally forgot about them. So it's all about follow through. So that fifth piece to the puzzle is doing either a 6-month or a 12-month coaching engagement with me, where we do one-on-one coaching to reinforce what you've learned and how you're applying it in your own life to reach your own goals. And then after that engagement's up, if you want to have another engagement, if you feel ready to be on your own, that's awesome. No coach is supposed to have a client for life. That's not being the coach if you have a client for life. But if you do need some additional support, we'll do another 6-month engagement. So whatever works for you. But that's the breaking the chains process, and I've tailored it for those in addiction recovery. I mean, I do have addictive behaviors myself, so I understand what goes on in that process. And
Are you
then
talking about like OCD?
oh, it could be OCD. It could be anything. Anything. What's interesting, Julie, is that's where the ADHD and addictive behaviors tie in together, and that's why I focus on those two areas, because predominantly, well, I shouldn't say predominantly, that's the wrong word, but folks with ADHD, they tend to have less control over, or less self-control. So those with ADHD have about a 15 to 20% more likelihood of having addictive behavior, because they don't have those self-control mechanisms. So that's where it ties together, along with a lot of different things that go along with that as well. It's really a holistic approach. Coaching is a holistic approach. And I'll get back here to the slides in a second, but coaching is a holistic approach because, as you said before, there's some stuff in our experiences. There may be some trauma in the past. There may be something going on currently. And you have to have the proper medical care, whether it's psychiatric, therapist, counselor, whatever, medical professionals to treat kind of what got you to where you are now in terms of PTSD, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the puzzle. The other part of it is that there are certainly many people have some type of mental disease, mental disorder, OCD, you mentioned, anxiety, bipolar, those types of things. If you don't have medical treatment for that, then coaching is not going to work. So it's a holistic approach. ADHD folks, they will always struggle unless they have some type of addressing of their ADHD Um,
I think a lot of people probably don't even know.
a lot of them don't know. A lot of them don't
So
know.
then you can't get help if you don't know there's a problem.
That's right. That's right. I've actually had in the past year a couple of clients who actually, always thought kind of like myself and actually went and got tested. And turned out that yes, they do have ADHD, got the medication, and then all of a sudden, boom, they kind of took off like a rocket in terms of making progress because that was under control. So it's holistic. Part of it is looking at the past. Coaching is looking at the future. It's where you are now and how you're going to get to where you want to be.
Wow, there's a lot going on. And I think we're probably getting a lot of people thinking about themselves right now and how they move through the world. For example, some people may not realize they have anxiety. They may think that everybody feels like that.
Sure.
And, everybody is like, whatever their anxiety is, they may think everybody is like that. And I think a lot of people do have different forms of anxiety, but some people it's um under a mic, it's under it's magnified,
Mm-hmm.
which is, and it's who's normal. I always say I think everybody's a little weird.
Well, you know what? That's a great point. So first off, that is, you identified probably one of the biggest hurdles for someone to wanting to try and get help, and that's the fact that they feel that like they're all by themselves. Everyone has a challenge. You are not the only one with ADHD. You are not the only one with addictive behavior. You're not the only one with anxiety. So don't let that hold you back, that you feel like you're that stigma, that you feel like I'm the only one facing this, and that puts you on an island, and then you will most likely get worse. It'll kind of be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you've got to dig your heels in and say, okay, so it's not just me, so let me see what
Exactly.
resources are out there to get me help. I always like to say, and this goes back to humor, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but you know every family has their own level of dysfunction. There's no family out there that's like the Huxtables or Father's Knows Best, and hopefully there's no family out there like Married with Children. We're all somewhere in the middle.
Exactly. Well, and some, obviously some families, we know are struggling, but other families look great. And the pictures on Facebook are everybody's beautiful and everybody's doing all these different things, but it's like you don't really know what's behind the scenes. And I think, like you said, everybody is struggling with something, but some people just make it look like it's really almost kind of fake in a way that not everything's perfect. And, I know social media, it can be a double-edged sword.
Absolutely. Social media leads a lot of anxiety because people are posting their best pictures out there, and it looks like folks have these amazing lives going on, and they're in Cancun or they're in whatever. And that was you didn't know it, but it was a perfect segue into a little tool that I'll share with your audience. So think about a compass: north, south, east, and west. When we look east and west, think about social media. When we look east and west, that's when we lose focus because we're comparing ourselves to everybody else. Well, Julie has this, and Julie went to here, and Julie's thinking, well, Joe just went on vacation here, and I didn't do that, and etc. So when we look east and west, we're comparing ourselves to everybody else, and that's when we lose our focus and we get frustrated. We need to focus on north and south. South is where you were, north is where you're headed. So if you think about it and you say, okay, so I'm farther than when I started, so I'm making progress. I'm going in the right direction. And what's interesting is this right here. This is very up here for a specific reason, because it's not a straight line.
No.
We may take 3 steps forward and then 1 step back, and 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. But the idea is that you're still moving forward. You're still farther north than where you started.
Yeah,
Then
sometimes you need to look back a little, see how far you've came, because it seems like we're like stuck, and maybe we're making slow progress, and maybe
exactly.
there's some things that we can do to accelerate the progress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's a great segue too. So I'm going to share a quick slide here with a couple of tips for your audience. So thinking differently. So here's 4 things I want to leave you with today. Challenges versus outcomes. It's very simple. When you stay focused on those outcomes that you're trying to get and not the challenges, then you'll figure out a way around the challenges. So focus on what you want. Don't focus on why you can't do something. So that's number 1. That's one way to think differently. Okay. Now these are all what I'm going to talk about, Julie. These are easy to say. They're hard to get inside you and live. That's the first one.
Yeah, I mean, changing the way you think. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not like, oh, I get it. I got
Yeah.
it. I'm fixed.
No. It's going to be uncomfortable at first because we have habits that have been built for years. So if you think about a muddy road and you're the 10th car going down that muddy road, there's ruts. So you stay inside that rut because that's the way you can move forward. Well, those are our habits. That's the way we think. And when you start thinking differently and try and get out of that rut, it's uncomfortable. It's hard to get out of that rut. It takes practice. So thinking differently, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. The second one is assume positive intent. And the point of that is all of us will get emotional about feedback or something that we're getting. Maybe it's the teacher, maybe it's, our boss, maybe it's whatever, a family member. The idea of assume positive intent is to try to control your emotions. Don't get upset because you heard something that was constructive. And I say constructive specifically because we're not talking about negative things. It's not negative feedback, it's constructive feedback. So when you talk about assume positive intent, it's okay. So let me take a second and think about this. On the surface, is what I was told correct? Yeah, I do need to fix that. Maybe it wasn't said in the right way. Maybe I got upset in the moment, but what was given to me as what I need to work on was accurate. So I'm just going to assume the positive intent, worry about what I need to do, and not worry about how it was told to me.
Well, sometimes they hit a nerve and we just react.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hate to use the word triggered because it's used a lot these
Hmm.
days. But there are certain things that will trigger us. And I talk to a lot of employees that are triggered by their bosses all the time with feedback. Because the interesting thing about managers by and large, painting with a very broad paintbrush, managers by and large got there because of their accomplishments, and they've never been trained to manage people. So most times they struggle with how to manage people.
Yeah, I can see them after a meeting going, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And that is, so I'm going to add another technique. So when I talk to folks that are doing performance reviews, some managers that are getting ready to do semi-annual or annual reviews with their direct reports, I'll always talk to them about the view from the balcony. So when you think about it, pretend that you're in the audience. So Julie is in the audience at Playhouse Square, and then Julie, the company owner manager, is on stage giving your employee their review. Think about the conversation and rehearse it in your mind. And if you do it from the audience, you'll pick up on some of those things, Julie, like you just said. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Because wow, if I was on the receiving end of that, I'd be angry. So I need to change how I word that. And that's
Right.
and better. So the view from the balcony. The other one, which is really great when I'm talking to people that are going through life changes or wanting to make a difference, make a change in their life, a permanent change, is very simple. Stop, start, and continue. We'll start with a basic list of, okay, go back and reflect on this. If you want to make change in your life, if you want to get to that next level, what do you need to stop doing? What do you need to start doing? And what's working that you should continue doing? It sounds simple, but when you start doing that exercise, it's like, wow, I really I keep falling into that rut and I keep doing the same thing over and over. That's got to stop. So,
Yeah,
so
if you
that's
keep doing the same thing, then you're going to get the same results.
exactly. So that's a good one. And then the last one is control, influence, and accept. I always call it CIA, and it's not the spy agency that keeps track of everybody, but it's control.
No, that's Alexa.
That's Alexa, exactly. That's Alexa or Siri. Yes, it's scary what they know. So control, influence, and accept. In any situation, there's a portion of that situation, whether it's personal life or professional, that you can't do anything about. So that falls in the accept column. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to get upset about it because I can't do anything about it. They changed the procedure at work. They changed whatever. I can't do anything about that from where I sit. So the control means, okay, control your emotions, control how you respond to that. And then the influence is, okay, you may not be able to deal with it right now, but how can you influence change in the future? Maybe it is being more active in a certain organization at work. Maybe it's being more active in a community project that you're passionate about. But think about the ways that you can influence things, and not be focused on being angry and frustrated because of something you can't change.
Right,
Again,
like, in the political world, there are, things
exactly.
happening and we don't, but we can actually, start volunteering in our community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great example. So control, influence, and accept. So those are in addition to the view from the balcony, those are some great things to think about and figure out how you can start applying those in your life. I went through those real quick because I know we've got limited time today, but I thought let me give your audience just a little taste of some things that they may be able to apply.
Well, yeah, it gives them a taste and they want to know more from you.
Well, that's hopefully that is true. So what I put on the screen now is my contact information. So it's real simple. I had a couple of clients that used to refer to me when they would get on session and say, "Hey, it's good to talk to Coach Joe today," or "I've been looking forward to talking to Coach Joe." So I said, you know what? Coach Joe is a good moniker. I'm going to take that. So
Yeah.
my email is just coachjoe@dpsforlife.com. The website's there, and then my phone number, 330-815-7015. So, reach out, give me a call. I will tell you that if you call the phone number and you get a voicemail, it's because I'm most likely in session with another client. So just leave a voicemail and I'll get back to you.
Or at an Ordonia sport game.
I may, yeah, you know what? I
Yeah.
you may see me at the stadium. The Knights are 4-0 right now,
I
so
know.
beautiful thing.
And, look at all the challenges that they've come through. So, and they're being successful right
Absolutely.
now. And it's the beginning of a season. It's everybody's just trying to figure out, their place on the team. I think to come out, 4-0 is really difficult to do.
Absolutely, especially after the teams that they've been playing. So
Yeah.
I mean, and you and I go back from a personal level because both of our girls graduated together in 17, and they were both part of a Nerdonia marching band. So we, as band parents, we went to a lot of games and saw some great football. And yeah,
Yeah, I talk about football a lot on my show, and obviously we cover it a lot. And I explained the other day, I really think one of the things that's wonderful about football and in high school, it involves so many students. It's
mm,
not just the team, it's the band, the color guard. There in this even the student section is a part of the game too,
absolutely.
and it's you come to the games and like it seems like everybody in the community is there, and
Okay.
and it's like obviously there's not as many students involved in soccer and some of the other sports. So I don't think it's just the fact that everybody loves football. I think there's just so many moving parts, and when the band's done doing the halftime show, a lot of the audience goes. So that shows you a lot of the audience are band parents and band families. So it's not just
Yeah.
the players on the field. What was that? Uh, the band parents used to have something on their shirt. It was so funny. Like I can't remember what it was, but the fact that they're not there for the football, they're for the
I
like.
do remember that.
Yeah, it was
I,
something about the halftime was
yeah.
the best part of the game or
It
whatever.
was something like that because I do remember that. I thought it was great. Now I haven't thought about that for a while.
I know.
The Lancer Marching Band. It was cool. But you know what? To your point, you have that because especially after COVID, because that's an opportunity to get reconnected.
Right.
and to see people after lockdowns and whatnot, because we're not designed to be isolated. We need that interaction. So it's great to have those ball games and different events to go to, and support the schools too. It's a
Well,
great school system.
oh, absolutely. We should also let everybody know that you're going to be doing some videos in our speaker series.
I am, yes. And one of the next ones we're going to do, Julie, is there's a young lady that I've been working with, and she's on her journey in recovery. She and I are writing a book together that should be out by the end of the year. So, our next video, you'll be talking to both of us. So, stay tuned for that.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure other people will as well. Well, we have learned a lot today and we all have a lot to think about.
We all do. We all do. You know what? It's every day is a great day. So it's just how you view it and what you make out of it.
Well, we really appreciate your journey and getting to a point now where you can help more people because people definitely need this in their lives, Joe.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was definitely a victim for a long time. I was diagnosed with a chronic illness, and that was another part of how I got to where I am today, because I was diagnosed with a chronic illness that's not going away. So I had to deal with getting over being the victim and figuring out how I was going to live going forward. So, and here I am.
Yeah, you're like coming out of the ashes. I mean, sometimes things happen for a reason.
Yeah, everything happens. Yeah, I think I firmly believe everything happens for a reason, and it's in its own time. So, Julie, it has been great spending time with you today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And, thanks to our viewers today. And I hope we've helped somebody. And, I think people are going to see Joe on the street now and say, hey, I know what he does now.
I hope that. I hope when I'm at Giant Eagle or Panera, somebody stops by and says hi. That would be awesome.
And you're
Uh,
also in our community video that's coming out soon. So
I am. I am. It was very
people can
gracious
look
of
for you
you.
in that.
That's right. It was very gracious of you to offer me that opportunity. So yes, I do have a little tiny part in that video.
Yeah, well, there's so many things going on in the video. Don't blink because you'll miss something, or you'll just have to rewatch it again. Just keep watching it. Well,
Exactly.
thank you for
Exactly.
everything, Joe, and more to come.
Thank you very much, Julie. Have a
Thank
great day.
you. Bye.
Yep. Bye.